And what the process communication model helps us do is understand when a person is in distress. Because my personal opinion is the middle management is the most stressed group in an organization, right? They're taking feedback from the top, feedback from the bottom, and they're like squished in here trying to figure out how to balance it.
Today we're talking about leadership, and I am going to be joined by an amazing lady, Nancy Michieli. She is a leadership communication coach. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am fabulous. It's so lovely to be on live with you today.
Amazing. I am doing good. It's a cold, wet day today in Canada, but
I'm only 2.5 hours down the road from you. So I live in Sarnia, so just past London.
so we're talking about leadership. And I
Yes.
see you are a leadership communication coach.
Yeah, leadership and building winning teams through good leadership communication is a passion of mine, is something that I've done for years, and I really just love helping organizations create amazing teams of people so that they're happy to show up and come to work in a great workplace. Mm-hmm.
And what do you think it entails,
So
having a happy employee?
To be a happy employee, it entails a few things. One is there needs to be a really good alignment between the type of work that you're doing and who you are. So often we get told to follow our passion, right? And most of that messaging comes from following our passion as going off and doing our own thing. But there's a lot of times where you can follow your passion and show up using that passion every day in your job, in your work, to bring the best of you forward. So I think that's one of the key things. And then I think as an organization, you need to look about how do you create a team of people who get to work together, who can play off each other's differences as opposed to get stressed out by each other's differences.
So would you think the bigger role for that is on the leadership of the company, or do you think it's more like bottom line, a bottom to the top, or how do you think that base
So
plays out?
I really think it starts with the owners, the heads of the company working their way down and creating that value and mission and purpose of what their company is there for. And then as you go out and hire people, as you build leadership up in your corporation, it is helping people align to that value and purpose and mission. But if your leadership isn't aligned on what that is, then it just kind of crumbles down. And we shouldn't be putting this heavy workload on the bottom up, trying to make the company great.
I totally agree with that. And I read this book by Simon Sinek. I don't know if
Yes.
you've read it. Start with Why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what you're saying, you totally align with his philosophy, because it's all about like, what is this company about? Like, why did you start this company? And if you can communicate in a single sentence or two to everybody in the company what the company is about, then it's easier to create that culture within the company that is going to help people to do their best.
Exactly. And what you want to do is you want to hire and attract. One of the biggest mistakes I see that corporations do when they go out and try and find people to work for their companies, we often look for a skill set. Instead, what we want to do is look for a value set. What is the alignment? Are these people, are they interested? Are they passionate about what we're doing? And then you can help train skill. But to find that passion, to find those people who want to be there, who are driven to be part of that mission that your business is, it takes a bit of time. But when you put that at the start of your job post, this is what our company is about. This is our values, right? You can start to attract the right people to your company and be like, hey, I want to work for them. Mm-hmm.
So I got one tip there already. So from you, you're saying that put out there what the company is about, what the value of this company is, so you attract those people.
Exactly.
So what tips would you then have for maybe a company which has not done it this way, and has attracted the wrong people, but needs to somehow change the leadership of the company to make that company culture be the one that fosters development, fosters people doing their best?
Yeah. So the first thing that I start with is I start with the leadership of the company. Let's get the heads of the company aligned on that value. What is it? And we do that through a team building. We do that through what I call creative conflict. And this is where conflict is about bringing different ideas to the table and coming up with the ideal vision, the ideal solution for your company. So once you have that, define the values. How do you want your leaders to show up? And then work to train and develop those leaders on those skills from a communication standpoint, because it all is about what and how we say our message to people at the same level and to people working their way down the organization. So the first bit is you've got to be able to, if you've never sat down and defined your vision or clearly articulated it, you got to start spending a lot of time coming into what that is, and not just kind of creating just a vision statement that says this is why we do it, but like really get deep into it. What is it about how you connect to that makes that value important to you? How do you want to show up as a leader every day to share that message, to inspire the people who work for you, that team, to be the best?
Okay, so I get that, and a lot of that is about the company.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a project that I was actually kind of putting together. I haven't quite launched it, but this is the philosophy behind that. I think there are no bad employees,
Yes.
but there are people who have personal problems and they have never been able to deal with those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring themselves to work. But the person coming, like you expect a good guy or good girl to show up to work.
Yes.
But that person has a life which is completely in chaos,
Right.
that they have to leave at the door
Yes.
and show up, show them their real selves in the office.
Yeah.
So I think there's an added element to it to try to figure out wellness as a whole for the person, so that it's a wholly well person who comes and shows themselves
Right.
to work, as opposed to a person who has to leave a part of themselves outside there because, hey, this is the kind of person you have to be at work. And so it doesn't matter what's happening out of the office. You have to show up to work in this way because this is how you've been trained to be. How important do you think wellness as a whole is to leadership?
Wellness and managing our stress and our psychological needs is really critical. So one of the programs that I teach, and I absolutely love this, is called the process communication model. And what the process communication model helps us do is understand when a person is in distress. And so without leaders needing massive psychology degrees or employees needing massive psychology degrees, it helps people understand what is their psychological need. What is it that if that was built into their day, in their work life or in their personal life, will help them fill up their cup from a positive energy standpoint, so that when they do show up, they can show up authentic, they can show up natural, and they can understand it. And so, for example, my psychological need is around managing time and structure. And so when I am in distress, right, what will happen is I'll first start to over communicate. You'll start to hear it, long rambling sentences. I'll go on and on and on. But as I get more and more stressed, I will start to micromanage and over control. And so each of us has one of these stress patterns, and there's 6 of them as defined in the process communication model. And so what I do with leaders, and I actually was doing this with a woman that I'm working with right at the moment, who she was trying to figure out how this staff member was making constant little mistakes all day long. And she's like, even when I try and give positive feedback, it's not working. And what I helped her recognize is that behavior is related to a lack of appreciation of self. And so as a leader, that person needs to give appreciation from a personal standpoint. I appreciate you for showing up and bringing harmony to our work team. You look amazing today, right? Like those type of comments, as opposed to comments of great work, good job, you've done a good job. So each of us requires this appreciation from a different pattern. And as soon as she started to do that, she instantly noticed this employee reduce making mistakes, starting to feel better about themselves and coming to the office. So when leaders are trained in something known as the process communication model, they can identify what each of the individuals needs by the distress behavior, ironically, and then offer that to them in their job. Maybe offer them time where they can have quiet and just reflect and relax and focus without being in a big team. So there's these different perspectives, and I teach leaders how to do that to help their employees become the best.
So the process communication model, you said there are 6 stress points you mentioned.
Yeah.
What are they?
So the stress points you'll often hear. So one is be perfect for you. So that is mine, be perfect for you. The other is be perfect for me. So that is based on values and opinions and needing conviction. The other is please you. So we hear a lot about the pleasing culture. Those people want appreciation for self and like sensory things. So like a cup of tea or making sure they've got pictures on their desk of family and loved one. The next is try hard. And so people who are trying hard need spontaneity, need fun, need to play for a few minutes, like that silliness and joy to come out. Another one is be strong for you. And those people are people who need they're very introverted and they need that quiet time by themselves to reflect and build strength. And then the last one is be strong for you. And those people need to be given action. They need to be given a challenge to go do, to have like get them moving, that has excitement and moves them forward. So these are like the 6 different patterns. And it's quite a bit to be able to identify them in the subtle ways and the more distressed ways that they show up in our team. But how do you do that? As a leader, if you can offer the right sign of appreciation, the right psychological need to your staff member, you can like start to transform that coming to work is their happy place, right? Even if crap is going on outside, it's like, I get to come to spend time in a place that allows me to fill my cup.
Yeah, so all of that sounds really good. But the question I have though is how do organizations actually implement those?
Yeah.
Because the statistics show that like Mondays are like the day with the worst heart attack rates, like most people, because that's the day they're going back into work.
So
we
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, we understand these things, but somehow it's not being implemented. And
right.
Yeah.
So this process actually came out of work with NASA, because when astronauts are in space, right, they don't get to go home at the end of the day. If they are in distress, they have to deal with it in that space. And so having all the astronauts know this model and help them be able to manage distress, manage miscommunication, and create a positive space. Another company that you will see use it, and they use it, is Pixar. So if you see Pixar movies, you will see this distress pattern and these communication patterns go through it. And Pixar also uses it in the background as with their management team to create something that they allow for this positive conversation. And so some of the Pixar movies, you can evidently see somebody going through this struggle. The movie Inside Out is a really great example of the process communication model being used. When I took training in it, the organizations that were in the training were really diverse. So Louis Vuitton in France, they train all of their staff in this to make sure that communication goes well within their organization. There was a school board in Arizona that was teaching it, that was learning it so that they could teach it to all of their teachers to create better connection with the students so the students could perform better. There was a psychologist who did couples relationships to help with a husband and wife, right, in these communications. Because communication is everywhere, right? Communication is you and I having this conversation right now. And so this model is used significantly. What's really cool for me is I'm one of the very few people in English-speaking Canada that is trained and certified to teach this and help corporations. And so when I discovered it, I was like, oh my gosh, this would have helped me significantly in my engineering role to be less stressed at times, right? And to be able to communicate to my team better, which is why I now am an avid fan of this.
So you teach this to organizations of all sizes right now?
Yeah, so right at the moment, I do some work one-on-one. I'm working with an incredible client who's fascinated with it and really starting to work with that person, and she's implementing it with her team and starting to see the results of her team member becoming less stressed at work. And so that's really incredible. And so now we're talking about how does that person use it to move up the chain, right? And use it to talk to senior leadership in their corporations. Because my personal opinion is the middle management is the most stressed group in an organization, right? They're taking feedback from the top, feedback from the bottom, and they're like squished in here trying to figure out how to balance it.
How important do you think financial wellness is in terms of the entire organization, but as well within the individual? Because as we know, for most people, finance is one of the main stress points.
Yes.
It affects the way you're going to communicate with your team, the way you're going to communicate in the family, the way you're everywhere.
Yes.
And so sometimes you might actually be bringing this stress to work, and you think it's something else when the real root of it is, hey, you just are worried about everything happening around you, and you don't think you're going to have the money to care for yourself in a certain way. So how important do you think that is in the entire team dynamic, and what part, if any, does it play in your teachings with other people, what you teach other people?
So financial wellness, I think, is hugely important for employees. I think corporations should actually build more of it in, right? Like companies that I've worked for, be like, oh yeah, we have a financial planner and they will help you do different things. But we don't really get into financial wellness, right? Like the emotions attached with finance, the worry. A lot of people went through COVID, right? And COVID really had a massive impact on people's financial well-beings, their stress level around finance. And I know companies, there's a lot of times they'll be like, oh, we pay them enough. It's not necessarily about pay. It's about what they do with that pay, right? And so I think it's a benefit if companies do more to help from a financial well-being in the corporation, because you're right, financial well-being is one of the top stress factors of a lot of employees, right? It's one of the things that employees will be like, oh, I'm going to go look for another job that pays me more. But the reality is, after a couple of weeks, right, that becomes now your baseline. And if you haven't changed the underlying habits, if you haven't worked to resolve that additional pay raise isn't always necessarily better. It just potentially leads to more stress. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that?
And well, I totally agree with it, and that's actually the project I was working on because a lot of companies miss the mark on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes people think it's just about the pay raise, but it's not. Because if
Right.
you're going to spend all of your paycheck, it doesn't matter how much you're going to be paid.
Exactly.
The pay increase is just going to increase the level of stress. Because
Mm-hmm.
the reality is, for most people, when they get a pay raise, they want to get a better car, or they
Right.
want to get a better house, or they want to get better clothing, better this, and so the increase in income hasn't increased anything. Your stress levels and everything stays the same. Maybe for a week or two you're excited, like your emotions are off the roof because you got the raise you wanted,
Right.
but the behavior hasn't changed. You haven't done anything different
Mm-hmm.
to yourself or for yourself from what you were doing before. And so sometimes companies are going to think maybe the pay raise is the solution, or maybe, yeah, we pay them better, we pay them good, we pay them better than the other companies, but they are still stressed out because they don't know what to do with their money because nobody taught them that. Like, you get into a company, and if there is a complex machine, there is a manual on how to use it.
Exactly.
There are trainers who are going to teach you how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And all the education you went to and everything you went through was so that you could get this good, amazing career or job or whatever, so you can get this pay, so you can live the life you want, but you get the pay, you get the job, and something's still missing.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that part. And then, so that stress is really there. And you said a very good point, like COVID played a part, because COVID just showed us a lot. Like, we have the good jobs and everything, but at the time of COVID, the uncertainty raised the level of anxiety for a lot of people, not even on the health side, but more on the financial side. Like,
right.
Will I get my job back? And if I can't get my job back, am I going to get a pay from the government or what? So that level of anxiety that we saw, it affected everybody from the bottom to the top leaders to the company owners to everyone, even the people who had money sitting in their bank accounts. And so sometimes companies are going to say, yeah, we have a financial planner, but the financial planner is going to tell you the kind of things to invest in and stuff like that, but they don't teach you the behavior part of things that you need to transform for yourself in order to do better with it.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And so what I was thinking, because for most companies, yes, they're going to bring in people to teach, to do the team building exercises, which are good. It's teaching you how to work with people, but deep down, the biggest stress you have is with yourself.
Right.
Because you would learn how to appreciate people, you would learn how to do all of this at work. But when you get back home and you're not doing that team building with all the people that you've been trained to do it with, what happens at home?
Yes.
That's where the real life happens, right? And so it's one of the things that I was looking at doing and bringing this to companies, to bring like financial wellness to the workplace and offering this in the company settings where you're teaching people that, bottom line, personal finance is about behavior.
Yeah. Dude.
And if you can handle that, then your wellness, like financial wellness, once you have that, and if a company can actually offer that to you, then you begin to feel that this company cares for my well-being and not just its bottom line. But if this company can care for me in this way, then I definitely want to care for this company in return. And so people start to act differently towards the company. And so it's not a direct benefit in terms of, hey, I'm gonna offer financial wellness to my employees, but indirectly you see it affecting your company in a very positive way.
Right. So all of these things that we can do to help reduce stress in the employees, right? Such as providing good quality financial well-being, right? Providing good quality mental health by helping them both personally and professionally create habits in their day, create mindsets, right? Ultimately improves the bottom line, because when the employee shows up without the stress or less stressed, knowing that the company is invested in them, not just by a paycheck, but actually invested in them, then they will show up, they will perform better, And when they perform better, they're able to communicate, create better ideas, help that company grow, have better conversations, both internally and externally with clients. I say for me that what I want a company to be when I think about this happy place that people work is that when an employee is home or out at a barbecue with friends, they are able to say things like, I work for the greatest company. They look after me. They consider my well-being. I have a great boss who cares about me, and that, I just tell people about how wonderful it is that they get to show up to work at that company, that place that they get to do. And I agree with you that the fundamentals of your mindset, your emotions, and how you manage money is really, really critical. Because I've had multiple people come into my office when I was in the corporate world who would be like, I want to raise, I want to raise, I want to raise, right? But it was because of these things, right? Like it was not because there was necessarily doing even a better job. It was like they wanted these things. And one of the things I recognized years ago, I had a young man who worked for me, and he came in and he wanted this job because he thought he would make significantly more money than doing what he was good at. So he happened to be an extremely skilled pipe fitter welder. But he had this mindset that, oh, I need this financial, right? I need to be able to go to work wearing a suit and tie. My spouse wants me to wear a suit and tie, right? I have this dream of a motorcycle that I want to be able to buy, and this big house, and right, all of these things. But the job was not a fit for him. Like, it was stressed. He just like struggled day in and day out and started taking sick leave because mentally, right, I want this money. Yeah. I'm going to go do a job that I absolutely hate because I'm trying to hit this money mindset, right? And what I didn't know the process communication model back then, but I was like, you are better in this other area. You could actually make more money doing it. Yeah. And it's not a suit and tie job, but it's something that you're good at. It's something that you would enjoy. And it, like, I finally was like, no, you have to go back and do this, right? You're not a fit.
What did he finally do?
Pardon? What
did he finally do?
Well, he finally ended up going back to doing welding. And because he needed his quiet time and it was really good with dexterity work, he was exceptional in it, right? And as people in the trades, if you are really good at what you can do, you can make far more money than an engineer or other positions. But you just need to get out of your head that there's something wrong with being in that position. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you make a very good point there, because oftentimes, okay, this comes up a lot with clients that I work with. They'll talk about the pay raise, but it's really because they want to buy stuff to impress people, mm-hmm. not necessarily because it's what they want, but it's because somebody else would look at them this way if they have that lifestyle.
Exactly.
But they hate it.
Yes.
But they would go into that because it's going to give them more money.
Yeah.
To live a life that they don't even like.
Exactly.
And so it comes down to that mindset thing. Like you said, the person's language, or the stress points, it's something I'm going to have to get educated on. But it totally makes sense. It's just going to give me more vocabulary to, right. to express that. But it totally makes sense because we go out, we buy things. It's the same reason why we spend money we don't have.
Yes.
We go into extreme amounts of debt.
Yes.
Because other people are looking this way, and so we want to be that way. And so the stress comes back to, hey, my job doesn't pay me enough. I need to go to the job that pays me better. And then you start translating. It starts coming into your workplace, you bring the stress in there. And if you're in a position of leadership, now
Yeah.
you start taking it out on the people who are below you because, hey, they're not doing, or you think they're not doing enough of a job to make you look good to the
Yes.
top management so you can get the promotion you want. And so you start to be this tyrant at the workplace because you want to be seen in another way. All because of what? The mindset that of the finances that you've created outside.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so
Right. Hmm.
yeah, it really all ties together. And so I think it's very important for companies to incorporate not only, yes, we have a financial planner, but actually like, okay, we're going to have this lessons, or we're going to have somebody who's going to come and teach us this particular things,
Hmm.
or whatever thing it is that, and sometimes people don't even know that they have those problems. Like people don't know that they have limiting beliefs when it comes to certain things.
Right.
But then when you start to expose it, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I've been doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and this is where I think companies miss out, is that they don't take time to invest in their training that. And one of the things that I see companies do is they train people for a day, right? They bring somebody in and be like, okay, we're going to do a day-long training, and then everybody walks away. But the problem with a day-long training is that typically people will walk away with about 6% the next day of what they learned. Where bringing in somebody to coach them on a regular basis, right? Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks, where it's like, okay, here's the little chunk we're going to go over. I want you to practice this, do this. And then next week when I come back, we'll review, answer any questions, and then move on, right? And
Mhm.
build that skill over a long time, because they develop these mindsets over a long time, right? A lot of money mindsets go back to your children, right?
Yeah.
Your family, right?
Childhood. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you as a child experienced watching your mom and dad or different people. And so we have these concepts, I think, that we can switch it in, like, oh, in 30 days you're going to solve all your problems, right? or or we can transform organizations by running a training course that is 1 day long or 4 hours, right? And it's like, we don't transform that way. We
No.
transform over time. And so if I was a company, if I owned a company again, one of the recommendations I would say is you want two different styles of coaches, right? Bring somebody in who helps from a money mindset standpoint, so we can get out of this concept of always needing more and more. Yes, pay your employees an appropriate salary, right? Pay them competitive wage, be good to your employees from that perspective, but spend time with them in these two areas of communication and leadership communication, and financial. And you would probably hit that. It would be like the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your effort would probably get 80% of your stress resolved within your corporation. And if you
Yeah.
can do that, your corporation will actually grow, will improve. The return on investment for a business would be huge.
Yeah. And you're definitely going to reduce the turnover, the number of people who are going to be leaving the company
Mm-hmm.
because this
Turnover.
is the best company ever. Like, why would I want to
Exactly.
leave?
Exactly. I was reading an article on LinkedIn about Peloton. And so Peloton right at the moment is going through some massive layoffs. But what was lovely is in the posts that employees were making about Peloton was about how rewarding it was, even though they were getting laid off, right? How great a company it was, how great. And it was like not just one, like the Peloton employees were like thanking them in those layoff perspectives, right? And so I'm like, what are some of the things that Peloton is doing that help people feel comfortable during a layoff, right?
Yeah.
Because a layoff is huge money impact, right? And having them feel supported from leadership and those types of perspectives, right? And I look at companies like that and think they're doing it right. Whatever it is that they're doing it right. And more companies need to do these things because this is what is going to keep people and retain them as great employees for your company.
Yeah, yeah. And that is actually going to make people do their best because they see you're giving them the best. So
Exactly.
they would actually bring their best out there. So it's amazing. I think it all comes down, like you said, it comes down to leadership, communication, and the mindset thing, and
Mhm.
money mindset,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Valuing your employees, right? What do my employees need to show up and be the best versions of themselves? And so money mindset is huge in the corporate world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So you work with clients all across Canada, and I'm assuming probably in the US as well?
Yeah, I have some clients in the US as far as Hawaii, so
Nice.
which is really cool. But most of my clients that I'm really working to attract are in Ontario. So I work one-on-one, or I'll go into corporations and actually meet with the team and work with the whole team dynamics in communication, in stress, in helping them show up to be the most amazing versions of themselves. And it's so cool to watch a company transform, to watch individual employees be able to be like, oh, now I know why that person behaves that way, and that they build better relationships, they build better trust. And so that just brings me joy every
That's good. And so the vast majority of them would definitely want you to come back for like an ongoing thing, correct? Because
yeah.
then when
So
they see those values, yeah.
So I actually, when I sit with a company to build a training program, I actually take the process communication model, which could theoretically be run in 1 or 2 days, and I break it up into 3-hour segments that we do once a week. And I come back so that the employees get a chance to practice each of the little skills as they work through it, and become and have it become part of their everyday culture and language, so that we can actually transform the culture instead of just transforming, just saying, hey, here's what you need to do. My goal is to transform corporate culture. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely amazing. Let me see. One final question for you. It says building better relationships at work, family, and life. Let's talk about this in the family.
Yeah.
How does this translate within the family setting?
So what my clients experience is that when they train in the process communication model, they're able to understand their spouse or their children better. So oftentimes, right, I think we have this concept that children from the same parents are going to be exactly the same personality, right? And they aren't. And so what happens is the person who trains in this in the corporate world is able to bring those skills, those abilities to communicate and recognize the best in each of their family members, and start to communicate better from that perspective. And when they do that, they can actually elevate the language within their family, which I think is a wonderful side benefit to it. Similar to finance, right? If they learn financial stuff in the corporate world, then when they come home, they're able to translate that and share that in their family setting.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely beautiful. Because at the end of the day, the person who shows up to work is the same person who goes back home. But because
Mm-hmm.
historically it's been in a way that it's like it's you leave your problems at the door and then you
Yeah.
show up here and be the best self. That separation is there, and it's like people are always struggling to. It's like you're a different person at work than you are at home. But if you're
Yeah.
able to get the person to be their best self, then they show up as themselves everywhere, and it just makes for a whole
Mm-hmm.
better experience for both the company, the families, and the individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. And when people take PCM with me, they get their own personal profile. It's like about 30 pages long. And what I love is at the back of it are 2 action plans. One is a professional action plan, and one is a personal action plan, so that you can actually build habits, build things into your day to help you resolve your stress, to be able to communicate to people outside of work what it is that you need so that you can show up and be the best version of yourself for them. And I think when people get both of those perspectives to be able to put in their day, it's such a lovely experience for them. They're like,
Can you share two of those things that people can generally incorporate into their days? Or it's different for each
it's
person?
different for each person. So there are 720 versions of this profile.
720.
Yeah, so when you do the profile assessment, there are 720 variations. Actually, I think there's probably even more than that. There's probably 4,000. When I think it's a factor of 6 3 times. So yeah, I think it's like 4,000 variations of the profile. So it's very individual, right? It's really about who you are and how you show up so that you can show up the best, so that you can make the best decisions, right? And for some people who money is a challenge, there are things in it that will help you understand your mindset better so that you can have better money discussions with your spouse or your family, so that you can show up to be able to engage in those ways the best way. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if people wanted to grab a copy of your PCM, where's the best place to do that?
So the best place for them to connect with me is go to my website, nancymichielicoaching.com, and schedule a call with me. I love to do free coffee chats with people just to be able to kind of see where they're at and see what options and solutions work best for them. I create private one-on-one programs custom to each person and their needs. Thank you very much, Ida. This has been so lovely to chat with you. I have seen you in Evan's group being so active, and it's really cool to be able to connect and do this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.